Now this is a video about success, and the name of the video would be, how can you see if you have the seeds of success in you? And there are many theories about this kind of topic, what successful people do, how they think and what is their mindset. But also I believe success has to do a lot with the upbringing of a person and the environment and the parenting. Now I will give you, like, the first thing I would give you, the negative part. Many of us came through upbringing that was not designed for us to be successful. Like, for example, myself, I came from a communistic kind of society. But about 1990 and about 1989, in the early 90s, a big change happened in the so-called socialist back then, not the socialist now, but back then socialist kind of country and communist idea. Communist idea and the socialist idea, beautiful ideas, but they did not work, and there are reasons for that. And I don't want to go in details about, but my upbringing was not designed to be a mindset of a successful person. So I had to overcome this through a lot of thinking, a lot of research, and a lot of studying of successful people. So now tip number one for you, if you want to know success, study success. Go and check the autobiographies of famous and successful people, not just famous, but successful, whatever it might this apply. If you want to learn about how to do bodybuilding, you might as well study from a person that is a good looking bodybuilder. If you try to lose weight, if you try to be athletic, you might as well learn from athletic person that went through the process. And some athletic people, like for myself, I'm an athletic person, but I never claim to give you a clues or a system how to be more athletic, because I know this has to be with my genetic upbringing, which is the good part, right? So now let's talk about some pointers and some signs that you have the success in you. That means that if you was brought up in an environment or a family that kind of duped these things into your head, they may be even lies, but in that point they became truth for you. So the first thing to look for is if you have early kind of history of success in your life. Let's say in school you was if you were a girl, you were the leader of the cheerleaders, or you was at least at that group. If you was a guy, maybe you run the fastest in the track. So this is one little success for you. Or if you was very smart, you had to if you was intelligence, you may solve mathematical equations. Or if you have something for arts or playing instrument well, your teacher probably told you that in the very early school years. The teachers have this gift. Yesterday, by the way, I watched a movie about a teaching, and a teacher revealed the true power of the teachers. The teachers generally, the purpose of any teacher in life is generally to see your potential, the potential that you cannot see, and they use all kinds of tools and motivation and speeches and behaviors to kind of help you bring this potential on the surface. They focus your attention on that good part in you that they spotted, and they do everything in their powers to help you develop that trait of your humanity or a character or a set skill. So now, first sign, you have an early track record of success. And now when it comes to the entrepreneurship, you can ask yourself, if you are older now, you can ask yourself, what was the first time that I did something entrepreneurial? And everybody in the business world have that story. You can ask Bill Gates, you can ask Steve Jobs, you can ask Warren Buffett. These are the most successful. Let's talk about Steve Jobs, because it's most familiar, and many of you may not know the story, but Steve Jobs was not just inventing computers in a garage. He was actually doing business. When he was 13 or 14 years old, he was doing business. Back then there was no computer, so he was just selling a service to his peers, other kids. He was selling them something called Atari game. This is how Steve Jobs invented the Macintosh computer. Back then there was no even computer. He was just a kid who was playing video games, and he found out that if he can put these games in garages around the neighborhood and in other coffee shops, back then there was no coffee shops there, he could make some money. He found out this little leverage in his thinking. He used to go to local businesses and build himself. He was building literally himself these so-called consoles, like an old TV, like an old this thick TV, not a flat plasma screen, this big thick TV, put in a box with Atari console, and he was selling as a service. So Steve Jobs, very popular about the computer, but many people do not know. Other people, some people was doing lemonade stands when they was very young. Who else? Gary Vaynerchuk was helping his father early stage. Even before that, he was doing something else. I forgot what he was doing. Anybody in this big people was doing something in their very early childhood, and that is one of the indicators that you have the seed of success. Now, I will share here my personal story, what I did that gave me the clue. So you have to listen to this story, because this story does not come from the world of capitalistic mindset, because I did not have that capitalistic mindset, because we used to live in the so-called communism or socialism. Bulgaria, my native country, was in the socialism back then. So here is the story. I was a kid, about 8 or 10 years old, and at that time there was the movie Star Wars. And of course, as a kid, first of all, the movie Star Wars was the only movie accepted in Bulgaria from the Western world. We lived in the era of the Iron Curtain. No information was coming in these countries. Very few movies, like romantic movies, Indian movies about romanticism and fantastical story, was coming from the West. So Star Wars movie was one of these movies, and of course, as a young boy, I was fascinated with this movie. The story was fantastic, the characters. This was the super cool movie for a kid my age. So here is the story. With this movie came something called photographs, like a little 4x6 pictures, and they were sold in something called a Disneyland, kind of a street fair. And those wagons, portable wagons, was coming to town, from town to town. They was moving, and in one park such as this, there was one of these wagons, and these wagons was always run by gypsies. They was run by gypsies, or some people that in the communism somehow they get their own private business. They was doing some gimmicks. They was conning the matrix of the communism. They was renting a place in a park, and they was responsible themselves for the cash flow. It was a government thing, but the cash flow was going through the products, and some of these owners of these places, they was not owners, they was working for the government back then, but somehow they was stealing directly from the cash flow. So now the story comes like this. I used to go and buy these photographs 4x6. They was only black and white, and I had to have my own collection. I had like 100 and something, and each one day back then was $1, and $1, that was 1/10 of a monthly salary. That was very expensive for my parents. My parents was making like $120, $150 a month, something like this, converted to the Bulgarian money. So I'm just giving you the value representation here. So anyway, at one point I had like so many of these photographs, and the reason for this collection is sometimes between the kids we was trading. We was doing trade. not for money, I would give you Darth Vader and you will give me Chewbacca. Because I had 2 Darth Vaders. I just managed to have 2 Darth Vaders. You know, I bought 2 Darth Vaders stupidly. And you had 1 Chewbacca, but I didn't have Chewbacca in my collection. So now, at one point to my mind, it came to me like, this is a lot of money that I'm taking from my parents, of course, to buy these stupid photographs. So I said to myself, how to do that, how to find this slight edge, like this, like a little advantage, so I don't have to spend this money. And voila, I went to a photography store and I start asking a bunch of questions, and the guy in the store, the person who was selling, told me about a photography lessons kind of. Back then was not classes, not webinars, it was a special name done by the government. So I quickly went to this thing and I learned everything about the photography. And what I learned about the photography was very very interesting. Now, do you know that you can actually do a photograph without even a camera? So this is what I was doing. I was taking the original photograph and I was putting the photograph in a plain paper, photographic paper, not exposed, and between 2 glasses I was putting these things, and then I turned on the light and I made a duplicate. I was making a negative without film. I was making this negative. It was, the white was becoming black and the black was becoming white, but I had this copy negative. And then with this negative, which is on paper, I put the negative with another sheet of paper, and I already had the original in myself. And then I was just turning the light on for 45 seconds and I was making a picture. If you know these techniques, if you are in photography, it's a good technique to know. Making copies without the Xerox, making copies without copy machine, by just using simple emulsions. It's fixator or whatever, I forgot there was two-step process, but the first step I somehow overcome without even shooting a picture. The other way would have been, I'm taking a photograph, but for that I need a camera, right? So I didn't want to go to the camera as well. So I was just making from the pictures I was creating a negative, and this negative I was just multiplying. So now this was a little slight edge in business. So now all of a sudden, and by the way, I very good remember that one stack of paper was costing $1.45 converted, you know. So for the one photograph I had 100 pieces of this. So my business model was by just copying this on a piece of paper, by just copying the original on a piece of paper, and just using my time I was doing this in the bathroom, of course, because it had to be a dark place with a red little light. So now all of a sudden, somehow, I managed to produce 100 copies for $1.45. And of course, I had now, not only that, but I can copy any character. Darth Vader, I don't have Darth Vader, I can just borrow Darth Vader from a friend of mine, copy it, create my own negative, and start copying and producing positives. I produce the pictures and I trade these pictures. So I had tremendous edge over all my peers, all these kids. So now I'm giving you this story because that imprinted this kind of business idea, this entrepreneurship spirit. Why would I go and spend $100 when I can spend $1 and create 100 copies of that? I didn't know the technique, I didn't know the way to do it, but with a little bit of curiosity, I asked a few people, I asked a few grown-ups, and they show me to this seminar, let's say, put it a seminar. I had to sign up and spend a couple of weeks to go through this process, but I did it, and I found how to simply make copies out of a photograph without camera, without film. Just copy of a picture to a negative and then use the negative to make copies. So I had my own copyrighted things, copyrighted power. Of course, Steven Spielberg didn't know anything about my little business. Plus, my business was not for money. I just wanted to have leverage to trade more. As a kid, I just wanted to have more characters in my collection. So this is indication number one. So if you are into entrepreneurship, do you have something like this in your early childhood, something that gave you the clue. And I know, believe it or not, I know for you, because everybody had something like this. Everybody at some point tried to be more efficient in their life. That is the whole purpose of humans, to be efficient to their fullest potential. Now, indication number two for success. So this is the first one. It's entrepreneurship spirit in early stage of life. Number two, it's expediency or sense of urgency. This is sense of urgency is for only those people that are successful. The rest of the people that do not have sense of urgency to a certain things, to a certain business venture or opportunities, they will be not successful. So now I want to ask you, do you have sense of urgency when it comes to opportunity and business? Now, when you decide, and one of my mentors, of course, said this quote, this is the greatest thing that happened to a human being, to decide. There is a lot of miracles can happen when you decide. So now, my question to you is, when you decide that there is something of a value for yourself, do you have the sense of urgency? This is an indication of success. If you have this kind of urgency, when you hear some good idea, when you hear some good information, when you hear opportunity about leverage, about even employment, if you are employed, if you hear somebody gives you a better job position with better terms and better pay, do you have the sense of urgency, or you just, okay, I'm gonna check this tomorrow, okay, put it in the drawer, leave it for tomorrow? Now, sense of urgency, it's called, in the business world, that it's called do it now. Do it now. This is how I learned from other business gurus and experts that do it now quality, or just do it. It is an indication of success. And I went to many people and I interview many people, and some of these people are in business, and actually I did want to consult many people in business. And some of these people in business did have this sense of urgency and some did not. Those are the loser clients that I have. If I give them some good advice or information as a consultant, they want to act right away. The successful people want to implement this idea immediately. And those that are the losers, they come up with excuse. That's what they happen. They come up with excuse. Oh, this may not work. It's gonna work tomorrow, or I will check later, and blah, blah, blah. All these excuses for why they should not act upon the good information. Now, I think this has to do a lot with vision, like a big picture, or so-called thinking big and thinking small. Small thinking people, they do not have the vision usually. They don't project themselves. And here is another good thing. If you can get something out of this talk, here is one thing. The very successful people, I've noticed, project themselves the further in the future, and the unsuccessful people project themselves by the next minute, week, day, month, or maximum a year. Successful people see their future in long term. They see longevity in themselves. They think, the successful people also think they're gonna live. They have this enthusiasm, they're gonna live forever. Nothing can stop them. Nothing can stop them. But let's get back to the indication number 2. Success is about urgency. Success, especially now in 2018, success loves speed. Success loves speed, and speed attracts success. And also, these successful people always have this sense of urgency. Do it now. Make it now. Let's start working on this. If this makes sense for me, let's put at least one paragraph in the new project. Let's open another project. Let's open a chapter in my life about this relationship with this business project, or this relationship with that person. That is the indication of success number 2. Now, about indication of success number 3, I'm gonna say that this is something called clarity. Many people do not understand what this means, but I'm going to give you a brief description. Clarity comes from a lot of experience and a lot of awareness. A lot of experience and a lot of awareness will give you clarity. You cannot get clarity too much if you don't have experience, if you don't have enough data to sort out through all this data. But number 3 for success, it's clarity. Successful people and entrepreneurs, or successful people in life in general, they have very clear picture, especially about themselves and especially about their self-image. Now I'm going to open a little bit here about self-image. The name of the book is Psycho-Cybernetics from Maltz. You should check that book. That's another thing you can steal from this talk. Psycho-Cybernetics about the self-image. Very important. But related to clarity, successful people do have huge clarity, and especially about themselves. And the reason for that is because they know what they want. Usually successful people, they know what they want. So indication number 3 for success in your life, ask yourself, do you have clarity about yourself? Are you clear? Are you clear with what you really want? If you are clear, absolutely clear, if you have a picture in your mind about this, whatever it might be, a dream house, a car, a healthy lifestyle, muscles, or strong developed legs, or a beautiful face, or a good haircut, or whatever you have in your life willing to have, if you have a clear picture, I mean the word, it's clear, not just a fuzzy, not just scattered. If you have a clear picture in your life about what you want, you definitely gonna get it. You definitely will achieve that. And don't let other people tell you you do not know what you want. That is a major key in the development of success. So let's say indication number 1, early success. Indication number 2, you got number 2? I didn't get that. Number 3, success, clarity. Number 3 is clarity. So these are just three of the seeds of success. And now, if you are at the end of this video, I want to give you a test, and the test will show you the truth. And now I want to go to my favorite format, which is called the paper. The paper. Now, coming with the paper, there is a format, right? A format with a lot of paper and a lot of writing. Now, bonus number 4 and the test for you, it's the paperwork. The paperwork. Did you do your homework? Did you do your paperwork? I would say, right? So, successful people also, they have the remarkable ability to think on paper. They think on paper. And if I can give you something from this video, that's what it is. Now, comes from my mentor. Where is your plan for life? That's the major question. And all successful people have plan for their life. And the most successful people do have it on paper, and they carry it around in their back pocket so they can constantly review themselves. And this is like the GPS system in life. You don't have it? If you don't have it, is it in your mind? Did you forget this in your car? Did you put it in the drawer? If you do have it on paper, it is going to work. If you don't have it on paper, don't fool yourself that you're going to open a file in your iPhone and you're going to keep it in a digital file. No, it does not work. On a digital file does not work. I'm here to let you know. I've tried it for many years, for about 15 years. I've tried both formats, paper and digital, and I know which one works. So I'm here to reveal this is the one that works. So sign number 4 for success is keep things on paper, keep your ideas on paper, and stare at it at least some good time. Allow yourself to have 20-30 minutes reflecting on your plan, which of course is on paper, and that will save you at least 10 times more of the suffering in life. I can guarantee you that. If it's on paper, if you want to be happy, one of the ways to be successful in happiness is to keep record of your happiness and success, and to review it from time to time. In other words, to keep like a somewhat diary. And if you are into entrepreneurship, a diary, it's a very powerful thing. To look at your diary, and at one point you can say, well, I met this person today. Wow, what a tremendous event. What an impact this person had on me. Or, wow, I had this good idea. This good idea deserves to be transported on the next sheet of paper and to work on this idea as well. Or, wow, what kind of efficiency tool I found here. Wow, how this all planning made my life better, happier, more successful, more fulfilled. And now, here is the test for you. I quoted 4 of these success trails. Now the test for you is this. Get a sheet of paper right now. Get a sheet of paper right now and put on the sheet of paper which one of these you have. Try to remember back in your life, revert your past all the way to your earliest childhood success and put it as number 1. See if you have clarity. See if you write things down on paper. See all of these things. Now, I'm here to declare, I'm here to tell you, slightly arrogant you may feel, but I'm here to tell you, if you don't do that, if you don't pull out this piece of paper right now, and if you don't put it in your own writing, this whole 27 and 28 minutes video is just 27 or 28 minutes lost of your life. This is how you should look at reality. If you spend 27 minutes watching this video, and at the end, when I'm suggesting you should get this piece of paper and do the test on you, you're going nowhere, my friend. So that's it pretty much. If you like this kind of talks, subscribe to the channel. See if you have these 3, 4, and some other 10 hidden in the in the video. Guess you can spot these other indications of success.